Hello, my name is Anna Anu. I'm an artist. I'm one of the founding artists of Forest for Trees Collectives. I'm the director. And we have the distinct honor to get to curate and produce ecofeminist art on Governor's Island in New York City. Most of our artists are 90% women and queer folks in this collective. And so for us, it's very important to have intergenerational dialogues, and in particular, to make sure that we are stewarding and listening well to the voices of grandmothers who have been doing this work for a long time and who have a lot of wisdom and medicine to offer us in our work. So as we kick off our 2025 season, I thought, let's bring in some conversation about the work of the grandmothers who have really shaped this collective's work. Grandma June, who is joining us here today, has been supporting and traveling with the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers for 20 years. Is that right?
17 of the 20.
17 of the 20 years. And these grandmothers, are really beautiful stewards of collective wisdom and land, and showing up in community to really hold all of life in care and prayer. For me personally, as an artist, the work of the 13 grandmothers has been so instructive. And I think as we hone in on the importance of women in this work and hone in on the importance of elder teachings in this work, what better time than now to bring forward our leaders, right? I think Grandma June and I got into this dialogue because right at the start of first day of this president's elections, there were all of these posts on Instagram that said, "I don't want a president, I want a council of Indigenous grandmothers." We laughed because we have this. We're so lucky to have this. And these grandmothers have been doing this work for a long time. And it's just a matter of us sharing the work, talking about it, and making sure that we're supporting these elders. So Grandma June, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and how you got involved with the work of the grandmothers?
Okay. Well, my name is June Arroyo, and thank you for having me here today. It's such an honor to be here with you, and I so support the work that you're doing. It's like talking about the young people that, like yourself, that spearhead, bringing community together and bringing the elders and all the Indigenous peoples and all the wisdom keepers to share their wisdom, share their knowledge, share their experiences, is what the world needs. And that's how I started my work, as a young person. I really heavily got into this probably about 25 years ago. Just feeling like such a draw to learn more. And so I just thought, well, how are you going to learn anything? Like, who, if you don't know anyone, or what are you going to do? Like, go sit with somebody, but then that would cost a fortune, It's like, how do you get into the circle of the elders, of the knowledge? And so I just thought, you know what? The best thing is just to have a workshop with the elder. And so that's how I started. I found this this elder and Indigenous elder, and I just asked, would you be interested in having a little workshop? Like, what's the amount of people that would be sufficient? And so he said, well, maybe 8. At that time, I knew like 3. So I said, well, would you work with me? I'll make a flyer, I'll put it out, I'll get a space and see what happens. And so he was willing to work with me. And so when we had our first gathering, there were 16 people. And they're like, oh, can we do this every month? So we did it with him every month for about 9 months. Then I started, meeting other Indigenous peoples, and I met the Ringing Rocks Foundation over here in Sedona. And they had an Indigenous elder every month. So I'd come from Phoenix to Sedona, about a 2-hour drive, 1.5 to 2 hours every month. And so I just, got very involved with that organization, ended up being an advisor on the advisory board. And then all the elders that they brought in, I do workshops with them in Phoenix. And then sometimes I'd pick them up from the airport and then bring them back over to Sedona. And so I got very involved that way. And anytime I'd hear of somebody coming, I'm like, hey, would you like to do a talk or a workshop or something to share? So with having all these elders, a lot of times they'd stay with me. And then I met Grandma Mona at the Ringing Rocks Foundation. No, I first met, of the 13 Indigenous grandmothers, I met Grandma Agnes in Flor de Mayo at a 3-day retreat in Sedona. And with a bunch of other elders who all the speakers ended up being all my friends as well, which was wonderful. But that's how I just started. And so then I met the grandmothers, and then 7 of them came to the Ringing Rocks Foundation a few months later. And that's when I met Mona. And she's the grandma of my area. She's Hopi and Havasupai. And so I think the very first handshake that we had, just in that one handshake, we knew our names, we knew where we lived, and she invited me out for coffee.
And now you're dear friends, right?
Yeah, so I followed all the invitations that I got that year. I got invited to Hopi, so I went there. I still go to this day. That was 2007. I got very involved. Mona brought me into the grandmothers. I helped her with her first gathering in 2009, which we had like 600 people come to that gathering. And so I've just, it takes like a desire and somebody that's like yourself that's willing to spearhead and put yourself out there and bring people together. And now I say it's my heart work, my life work, bringing community together, bringing, having the elders come. Nobody can say it like the elders from different tribes. Nobody can portray what you're looking for to get that hit in your spirit and your heart, to get those little genetic codes like ringing, there's sometimes it hits a chord to our DNA, a memory, like sometimes when the elders are speaking, it's like memories start coming back. And so other people can say the same things, but it won't feel the same unless somebody like that's in their work or from an Indigenous tribe or whatever can say it in that specific way. I always say that, that we always know that spirit comes through the elements, the earth, the air, the water, the fire. And so when we're speaking or we're singing those prayer songs or chanting, spirit comes through there from air. So then the spirit comes through and touches us. And so when now there's only 6 of those grandmothers left. and still alive. There was a time when they decided to not have predecessors,
Right.
because they didn't want it. It depends on who's running the organization or what nonprofit they're under, like what it becomes.
Mhm.
And they were called to come together, through spirit. So they just decided, well, we're the 13 grandmothers of this group. And, when we're gone, it's either that we're the 13 grandmothers, whether on earth or in spirit. They made an agreement with the Japan gathering, because they've gone to each other's gatherings in each country. Each grandmother has hosted a gathering in their country. And one of the grandmothers, she lives in Brazil, grandmother Clara, but her parents are from Japan, so her gathering was there in Japan. And at that time, they decided to not have the predecessors, and that no one would leave it either. So they ended up, like if a grandmother's like, oh, I don't feel like traveling anymore, or, I think I'm just going to kind of lay low, they'd get a letter like, sorry, like, we
This is a
decided.
lifelong contract.
Yeah. So it's
And
and
an ancestral contract too, right? I think
yeah,
they always talk about, we'll do this work from either realm.
yeah. And what's really interesting is these grandmothers have traveled all over the world, and what did they find? Other 13 grandmother groups.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know there was any other 13 grandmothers. They didn't mean to be 13 grandmothers. It just ended up that way. But when we went to Hawaii, there was 13 grandmothers that came to our gathering. When they've
I
gone
didn't know this. I didn't know this.
when they've gone to other countries, 13 grandmother groups have come to them.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the way that this grandmother group was formed is, there was a woman named Jyoti that had a ministry program based on Indigenous teachings in California.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she always had these dreams, these visions that the grandmothers should gather. And she always thought, oh, that's a great idea. But, then like, well, hope somebody does something about it, And
Yep.
it was like years of dreams, messages, signs, all these things. And finally she's like, wow, like this is like not stopping. And she knew people a lot. She traveled quite extensively to a lot of Indigenous tribes and knew a lot of Indigenous people. And so she was very close to Bernadette in Gabon, Africa. And so she shared with her this that was happening. And so the grandmother told her, that's very interesting, because I have been having the same thing happen to me. Mm. And so she said, I think you're the one that has to do it, because you know all those grandmothers around the world. Mm-hmm. So she ended up setting a date for 2 years later to fundraise, to bring whoever came, and set a date in Menla. That's like a Buddhist retreat center. A lot of different events go on there, but the Dalai Lama goes there every now and then. And so they set a date there, and 13 came. And that's how and then they all shared their stories. They shared their ceremonies. They said what they feel about what's going on in the world, what's going on in their tribes and their families. And after all these days of being together, they're like, wow, what is this, the only time we're going to meet? Is this it? And so when they're having this council, they're like, so would we be interested in forming a council? And so at that time, they all agreed to form a council. And so then they called themselves the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. And they wrote their mission statement, and they agreed to meet to host a gathering every 2 years in each other's countries. So that's how they came together. But Grandmother Blumenstein, the Alaskan grandma, she's Yupik. She, when they were told, to bring their bundles when they came to the gathering. And so she had this bundle that her grandmother gave her when she was 9 years old. And her grandmother said, there's 13 stones in this bundle and 13 eagle feathers. And one day you're going to be on a council of 13 grandmothers. And when you're on this council of grandmothers, you give each grandmother a stone, but you keep the eagle feathers together. There's 13 moons in our year. There's 13 planets in our solar system. And there's going to be these 13 grandmothers. And so she carried this little bundle around for, since she was 9 years old. Sometimes she'd say she'd be cleaning her room and there's that bundle. She'd throw it in the corner. There's that bundle my grandma gave me, And but she thought maybe this is it. So she brought that bundle. And at that time, they decided to form this council, and she put those stones out and told the story to the grandmothers and gave them each a stone and kept those eagle feathers together. And other grandmothers shared other kind of visions of this happening. And so it just, it was meant to happen, these 13 grandmothers. So to their surprise, there was all these other grandmothers around the world of 13 grandmother groups. So it's amazing.
You were just talking about the 13 stones and the 13 eagle feathers and how the stones were given to the grandmothers. I had to move locations. I plugged in just in case. I was like,
oh, yeah. Well,
but
I don't know how much you heard. Did I tell you about the 13 moons and the 13 planets?
No, okay. I heard about the moons, but say more about the planets.
Okay, so when Rita Blumenstein is the Yupik grandmother from Alaska. So when her grandmother gave her this bundle of 13 stones and 13 eagle feathers, she told her, one day you're going to be on this council of 13 grandmothers. And at this time, like I say, Grandma Rita was only 9 years old. She said there's 13 moons in our cycle. There's 13 planets in our solar system, and there's going to be these 13 grandmothers. And when you're on this council of grandmothers, you give each grandmother a stone and keep the eagle feathers together. And know that I'm behind you, supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
So when she came to this gathering, and they decided to form this council, then she thought, this is it, So she put out these 13 stones in a circle and had these eagle feathers together in her hand, and she told the story to the 13 grandmothers. And then she gave each grandmother a stone. But the interesting thing is that they always sat in a round table whenever they were gathered at any gathering, or, well, most gatherings, but definitely their gatherings, or when they had council, because no one was at the head. They were all equal.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody had made them this beautiful cloth that went in the middle and had these 13 moons there on the cloth. And I can't remember if there were planets there or not, but I know the moons. I think it was just the moons. But I asked Mona one time, I go, what did you all think? When Rita was talking about the 13 moons and the 13 planets and the 13 grandmothers, and you're all looking at this tablecloth with the 13 moons at each of your places where you're sitting. She said it was like surreal that they just looked at each other and looked at Rita and looked at this cloth, and it was just like this surreal moment that just meant, so much to them. And then to receive one of those stones. And, now there's only 6 grandmothers left. Of course, grandmothers don't last forever. And so, it's been such an honor to have met each one of those grandmothers, to have worked with them. They're like, they touch your heart, like every time we have a gathering and they're leaving, they're all like just so loving, like neither of you want to leave each other, but they're all waving at you. And it's like, just fills you out. But, I have dedicated a lot of my time, to that work with the grandmothers. I haven't gone to all the countries, but I have traveled a lot of other places with the grandmothers, and we've had them here in Sedona a few times. And actually, we're having a gathering at the end of May 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Unchi Rita, long visitor holy dance, is the Lakota grandmother. She's Oglala Lakota, and she's turning 100 years old. And
the eldest living member on the council.
Yes, no one has made it to 100. So this is really monumental. And about 11 of her family members are coming. Of course, Nathan Blindman, who always travels with her, is coming, but all her other kids and grandkids, and grandmother Mona is coming. So some of the other grandmothers couldn't come because they couldn't get a visa, like the Brazilian grandmothers. And Flor de Mayo had something going on right at that weekend. So, but we still haven't heard back from Margaret if she would like to come. But we're, it's going to be a beautiful gathering here. We're going to have a fire ceremony, and then I host in conjunction with the library, I host a Indigenous series. So I bring in an Indigenous elder from somewhere in the world every month for a free presentation for the whole community. And so they're going to be doing that presentation at the library on the 24th. And then the evening of the 24th, we start our main event, and then all day Sunday, the 25th. So if anyone's interested in attending, it's going to be here in the Sedona area and Cornville, Cottonwood area. It's all kind of little places together over here.
And folks can find out through your Instagram, right?
Yeah, I have the flyer posted. I don't know how to post a website on Instagram, but I put the flyer on there, and it has like a little, those little QR codes. If you could look at it from another venue, or you could print it or whatever. So, but you can also contact me. My email is at June Arballo, ARBALLO @gmail.com. And so, my website's junearballo.com. So my information's on there. But if you'd like to come, just let me know. But, it's just been like such an honor to be with the grandmas and work with the grandmas, but also elders from all over the world, male or female. It's just, it's just my passion. It's, like I say, my heart work. It's nothing I ever make money on, but I give my life to it. And so I support, this, again, like nobody can say it like they can say it.
Yeah.
Nobody. I have Apache blood in me, but I'm not full-blooded Apache. My great-great-grandmother was a full-blooded Apache. And so she married a man from Spain and Mexico. He had an apothecary, and so the tribe took her to him to heal her, and they ended up falling in love, and they lived in Mexico. There's a big story about it. It's, they got mad at him for taking her and all that. But they ended up, well, she wanted to go too. They kind of took off in the middle of the night because they didn't want them to be together. So there's it could be like a whole movie or something.
Romance.
Yeah, and then they financed the revolution with Pancho Villa. And the last name is Murga. Juan el Duro, they called my great-great-grandfather. And he comes from Murga, Spain. But then they mixed with the indigenous peoples there in Mexico, my family. So that's my mom's family comes there from Mexico. And so I'm a dual citizen of Mexico and the United States. Okay. And then my dad is of German descent. He met my mom in Mexico and then brought her to the States.
And back you go.
Yeah, here back you go. But
Arizona
I love seeing, what's that?
Arizona and everything.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be here in Arizona. I feel like my Apache relatives, like I could be walking right over their footprints, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is like my home now. So I feel like something's come full circle. And I do go to the Apache reservation a lot, and the Hopi, and I have friends in all the tribes here. Mm-hmm. But I love that part of my life that, where I bring forward, what I want the community to want to share with the community. It's like these people, this knowledge, this energy.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like, for women organizing in particular, it's like without our elders, we tend to disagree.
Yeah.
They're great peacekeepers, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. And I always ask elders this question, and I'd love to hear your response, which the question is, what do you feel the role of grandmothers is in revolution during trying times like now?
Well, I feel it's very important to start listening to the grandmothers and the elders right now, because they're the ones that are telling us like how to like, you could say how to ride the wave right now. How to be grounded.
Yeah.
How to stick together with your people, to do your ceremonies, to do your part from where you are at right now in your own life or your community. It's a time to, stand strong to how you feel and believe, to do what you feel is right, to retreat when you need to and come out when you need to listen to the rhythms of your body and your energy, to be mindful of that. And but I feel that the role is to listen to the elders. Of our role, I don't know if I always look to the grandmothers, the elders, like I don't know, when am I I feel like all of us have to realize when it's our turn to emerge as, one of the wisdom keepers. Like we're always looking up,
which you certainly are.
Yeah, so we have to understand that where our part is and what the cycles of our lives are. We can't always be the student. We have to rise as the teacher. And so, and this times right now is one of the most important times for that. Things are changing so much right now that it's like nothing that used to work before is going to work going forward. Even who we were and how we worked before is not the same moving forward.
Right.
So that's why we have to also really listen to the rhythms of our own spirit and what we're called to do, because we have to kind of integrate to this new energy that's coming in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think coming together with listening to the elders and all of the wisdom keepers, and, you know, bringing all these people into our lives, even if they're not in your life physically. I mean, there's so much to listen to online. Just let it kind of, when people speak, it's like spirit speaking through them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost let that spirit of those words like move through your body and work with you like an energetic or cellular level.
Yeah.
Because we can't always just listen with our mind. We have to be fully present with our spirit and our mind and our body together.
Yeah.
And so that's just like how we listen to the elders is like that, to connect in that way. And just like when you go, like people come to Sedona, like, oh, I want to go to the vortexes. It's like you have to connect with the land first before you can even, you know, connect with any certain area, which all of Sedona is a vortex. You know, it's all sacred. There's no like one place. That's what that's, you know, really the way to look at it when you come here. But you know, it's more like when you're going to listen to the elders, it's just like you're going to go to the land and connect with the land before you walk on it, you know, make an offering.
Right.
Like a lot of times when you go meet the elders, you bring some tobacco or, you know, an offering or a little bundle or something, you know, the first time you meet an elder. So it's like connecting, making that acknowledgement that you acknowledge them and respect them and welcome them into your life.
Yes. You'll be happy to hear. Excuse me. You'll be happy to hear that we just had one of our artists host a talk about maize, and this artist years ago I brought to connect with Grandmother Flor de Mayo. And Flor de Mayo was teaching about seed bundles.
Yes.
And what did we do at this event? We made seed bundles.
Oh, great.
This artist is also of Mayan descent, so she really connected to Grandma Flor de Mayo's work, and it was beautiful to see it carried forward, and an artist who is emerging as an auntie figure now and supporting younger generations.
Wonderful.
The other thing, oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, we had a women's gathering with the grandmothers here in near Sedona over by Montezuma as well. It was 400 women camping and with the grandmothers. And at that gathering, we made a seed balls. Like you get the seeds and you make a ball with the mud. Mm-hmm. So everybody took, and then you just dry them. So everybody was giving out all these seed balls, and you just take them home and you just go throw them in the muddy water or something, and then it'll germinate and grow. You know,
they know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of these women gatherings in women's space, you know, as an organization that is, you know, largely women, we have some men who are artists and, you know, who support our work, and they've asked how they can be of support to women's work in this way. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I really believe that we need the balance. You know, like, of course, when you have gatherings, who comes? All the women, right? The guys, like, it's, and I've tried, and like, there's all these grandma groups and all that, and it's like, where's all the grandfather groups? You know, where's the 13 grandfather groups? You know, I would love to see that. And even here, I've been trying to get guys to create like men's circles so that the women's circles can do things with the men's circles, you know, so that we can, I believe very strongly that we need to be like, women need to be with women and men need to be with men at times. And sometimes we need to come together and support each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I feel that, you know, just that energy is really important to come together at some point, just to have a ceremony, or like do a sweat lodge together, or do, something together, because every now and then, it's good to mix those two together. But if it depends on what it is. You can't say how they can help. It depends on where they're helping. And I mean, men are helpful. They're just, they're wonderful. And, they want to come and support, and they want to, like if it's a gathering where women are leading the way, then they're always like, just point me in the right direction. And they're just, wonderful, wanting to support and help. And, so it just depends on, it's just when a man comes into a woman's space, it's different than like a woman going into a man's space.
Mm-hmm.
And just the energy is very different. So when a man comes into a woman's space, that's the best way to come in. It's just like, let me be helpful. Where sometimes, like a woman goes into a man's space, we kind of get lost sometimes, but the energies like of the world have come, over to the feminine side now. I remember quite a while ago, a lot of the indigenous tribes did ceremony over that. But, I don't know what has really changed about it, other than I feel that it's a time for women to stand up.
Yeah.
Even like yourself, like come out, support, be the, the trailblazers of bringing together what your vision of people coming together, like yours is through art a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that all of us at this time, especially, with the energies changing, is that we all step up, and then step people up with us, men and women, everybody. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like when a man comes into a woman's space, what's different is that what women respect is for someone to come into a woman's space, kind of be humble, humble and helpful. And that's pretty much it. That's all, it's pretty much simple.
And how about with the youth who are who are really, we work with a lot of youth who are big environmental activists, and do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Oh man, I'm so excited about this youth. And it's like, again, like the youth that's coming out are so much more, like, can get so much more done than like when I was a youth. Mm-hmm. Like they have so much more at their fingertips to make like mountains move, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And the youth are the one that's gonna be, the leaders of the world in the future. Mm-hmm. And they're the leaders already. So anytime I see youth, like, like you doing what you're doing, and other young people, like taking charge, and, like really, especially with the environment, that's the biggest thing. When I see that, I'm like, just tell me anything I can do to help or support, or, get the word out. Like, I want to support any way I can. But I think that a lot of, a lot of the elders and everybody are counting on that youth, to do that work for the world, for the future, because it's like everybody else is not going to be here. Mm-hmm. So not only does that youth need support of their peer group, the people older than them, but the elders behind them. Yeah. Like, yes, go do that work.
The encouragement, exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
anything that we can do to support that, like, I'm just so excited, you know, when I think that so many people are excited when they see the youth like really taking charge, you know, and doing something, especially for the environment.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the biggest thing on our plate right now. I mean, one of the biggest. So, yeah, just, I think that I just so supportive of that.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you've got a very full day.
Yeah.
Building a sweat lodge. You've got elders
Yeah.
visiting. You've got so I won't take up too much
Yeah.
more of your time, but I just want to say, you know, for folks who are listening, you can learn more about Grandma June's work. You can follow her Instagram. I'm sure you would probably welcome donations towards Unchirita's birthday.
Yeah, we have a web page for that. On the web page, we have a donation button, and because it is costing a lot to bring like this many people together, even for a few days. But you know, so we're if anyone can pass the word, and you know, to support the grandmothers and Chirita and all that we're doing here for everybody. Yeah.
And we'll tag in the grandmothers. They're on Instagram at Grandmothers Wisdom. Anytime someone asks about the work of the grandmothers, I'm like, they're on the internet. You can find.
Yeah, I think even Mona has her own Instagram
page. Florida
Mona. Yeah.
Yeah. And so hopefully this is just the first of many connections. I know we're so lucky to partner with some incredible organizations who are also tied into the work of the 13 grandmothers. So I'm sure first of many, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for making the time on this very busy day of yours, and
thank you
sharing, being the elder steward of our opening season for our work on Governor's Island. And I'm so lucky and grateful to have connected with you, and I can't wait to talk again.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I hope today is so beautiful
to be here with you, and so support, you know, all that you do as well. And you know, like that's like the environment is so important. Like the grandmothers do a lot of work with the UN, you know, with the World Water Forum to protect the water and the different elements in Earth. So I just want all those people, those young people that do their work this way, you know, to know that all the grandmothers are supporting them in spirit or in physical.
That's right.
Myself and many other elders, you know, feel the same way around the world, I'm sure. Thank you.
Well, on that note, yes, we'll end, but thanks to all for joining, and have a beautiful day, Grandma June.
Thank you.